in Richmond, 96 double. Hot, hot.
99.7 KRED.
Tell you, man, you leading the league in hydration.
Aurora.
I've eaten burritos bigger than you.
This is Running Wild with Brandon Jackson.
So what is it?
99.7 KRED in Aurora, Colorado. This is Brandon Jackson here with Running Wild. How we doing, everybody? Pretty tough game out there in South Alabama. Playing up against the Jaguars did not go the way that we wanted. A 45-22 loss going up against the Jags. It was a game where, as I was watching it and as it was kind of unfolding, I thought offensively Aurora wasn't horrible, but there's a desperate need for a lot of skill players. Where they really had trouble was on defense. Defense was definitely a huge problem, and they had a hard time really stopping South Alabama's hurry-up offense, which is something that Mashburn is going to be keying on in this week. So that brings the Red Foxes to a record of 1-5 this year. There's a little bit of concern right now for not so much head coach Sam Mashburn, but for his coordinators, offensive coordinator Colby Kirkegaard and defensive coordinator Spencer Bruce. Now, I imagine that after talking with Mashburn going into this week, he says he's not worried about them losing their job or their current security at this time. He says that as long as he's there, he's going to keep them and keep them safe, and whatever is under his control, he will keep them there. If they're just able to get a better job somewhere else, he'll gladly let them go. But if it comes to they may get fired or something like that, he's going to do his best to kind of keep them on board and make sure that they're secure within the program, and that he would rather take the fall rather than them doing so. But it does raise some very, very legitimate questions about the team, especially defensively, and what Spencer Bruce has been doing in terms of how to counter the hurry-up offense. Mashburn has pretty much said he's committed to running his normal offense, eating up as much clock as possible, because he believes that it's the only way that his team can really stay in these games with anybody. If they're going to run a hurry-up, yeah, they have a chance of scoring fast, but if you can get those 3 and outs, and Aurora gets the ball back and they can just eat up about half a quarter or 3/4 of a quarter, it gives them less time and puts the pressure on the hurry-up offense that the other team runs to have to do something. Now, if he had a more explosive offense, he'd gladly let the hurry-up offense kind of do whatever he wants. But because the offense isn't exactly what he wants right now, and there aren't that many skill players, and we have guys who have issues with their hands, he's going to keep it on the ground more often and try to run the football and try to run the clock down as much as he can. Speaking of issue with hands, Travis Jennings, who we have seen in a few games come up with some kind of big catches and big moments, usually when they go 5 wide or they go into a bit more of a spread, has actually been named the slot receiver for this upcoming week. He will be taking over for Brian Swift. Brian Swift has been moved down to the 4th receiver on the depth chart. So we'll see what effect that has on the offense this week. And the quarterback, even though Leventhal played very well towards the end of the game against South Alabama, he got the garbage time touchdown there. Had a good drive. I think it was 4 for 6 on that drive. Chandler Gaines has been put back in as the starting quarterback. And the move was made, as Mashburn explained it, because Gaines understands the offense the best. He and Kirkegaard have been going over this offense for quite some time now. He's the guy that can call the audibles and make the plays and kind of adjust to what the defense is playing to. And the time off that he had last week due to injury has given him a lot of time to really sit down and hone in and learn to be patient, read. So he's going to be given the ball this week, and from what Mashburn has told me, it seems like he's actually going to be playing the entire game. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this upcoming week. We have Gaines back. I think that he is the most talented guy at quarterback that we have. I don't know if he's necessarily the best option. I think when Miguel DeSousa was out there on the field, he had so much speed that because they kept on the ground, it opened up everything for everyone. I think DeSousa may be the best option, but hey, we'll see this week when Gaines comes in there and what he does when we're in Troy, Alabama. Let's go ahead and jump into some of your questions and talk about the upcoming week. We'll go through the comments here. Let's see what we got. Let's go to V-Dub in, I'm guessing that's in California. I don't know if that's a reference, if that's Inca, but seeing that he says he's from Fairfield, California, I'm going to imagine that's in California. So, hey, Brandon, will Coach Mashburn eventually start to practice no huddle with his offense? I believe this is something they need to learn eventually because if they find this one's down by 10 early, they need to learn to put some drives together that doesn't chew much on the clock instead of trying to be in hurry up late in games when the game is already out of hand. I do like seeing this team in a never give up mode. Run Wild from Fairfield, California. So, again, he is committed to burning as much clock as possible, which is why usually he always receives. He never kicks, or he never likes to kick. If he gets the choice after a coin toss, he receives. And he wants to set that tempo and try to get that offense to score first and then put the other team on that back burner. I do think that you have a very good point when, if you're down 10 early, it's like you have to get in hurry-up mode. But even then, he still doesn't believe it. I think that if Mashburn had a quarterback that was a little bit more consistent, that's why I think Leventhal should maybe be starting this week. But he says that Gaines understands the offense the best, and that's who he's going to go with. But I think if you had a quarterback with a little bit more accuracy and a little bit more consistent, I don't think that becomes much of a problem. But because they have to rely so much on the run, I don't know if they can really go in a hurry-up offense with – you can, but does it really help if you're running two wide sets with tight ends and two running backs in the backfield to go into hurry-up mode? They aren't prepared to go a spread offense. So I don't see them doing that. I would like to see something like that implemented. I know that Mashburn may be going more towards 3 wide sets this week, which his playbook and what he's gone over with his guys, he's prepared to do. But I don't think you're going to be seeing a lot of 4 wide or 5 wide sets. They have a 5 wide set. They have a 5 wide formation specifically for 5 guys out there, but nothing that's really kind of like a spread offense where they can just kind of run and gun. Let's go to our next question here. This one from Brandon Buzzard. Okay. Hey, Brandon, do you think Mashburn would have want to go for 3 instead of going for it on 4th and goal? Would that have helped the team's morale? And do you think Aurora's offense needs to do what they did last week with running with all the quarterbacks? #RunWild. Keep up the great work. Hey, thanks, Brandon. Good to see a comment from a namesake. It's weird because I definitely think if they took the 3 points in that situation, it was probably the better move to make. But Mashburn insists on being aggressive and wanting to win. It's his mindset. I don't understand why he does it, but it's what he wants to do. I don't know if it really helps or lowers the morale if you score 3 points there or if you don't. I know that, if you're 1 yard away, you really want to get in there and just score. I think about it. We've had situations where it's, a 4th down play and he just runs a fake punt and Darius Watts completes a pass. So, I really don't know. I think the only time I've really seen this team's morale down was after the Western Kentucky game, where it was 10-10 going into the 4th. They had the ball, and then they did everything in their power to turn the ball over, commit turnover after turnover, and pretty much the game just got thrown away. And Western Kentucky ended up winning by 3 scores. I can't say that the team's morale has really been any more down than that at any point this season. And think about that. Think about that. They came from that low to the next week running a 4-quarterback system and winning against Georgia Southern, or Georgia State, I should say. So, yeah, I don't think morale is necessarily an issue. I think they'll be fine. I think that they need to find some consistency and ways to just drive downfield with no problem with this offense. Remember, also, if you're following online, the practice is currently going on, and live streams going on up there. You see a lot of that 3-wide set right now, doing a lot of practice within it, and Gaines kind of changing up the plays and working within the system there. Let me look on here. Got another comment here from Joey Johns. Hey, Brandon, big fan. One thing I noticed that this week was that the defense was continually whiffing on easy and important tackles. Was this just a concentration lap on the part of the whole team, or is it a major problem that should be addressed? Love listening to the show. From Mishawaka, Indiana. Run Wild. Wow, all the way from Indiana. I don't know if that's Japanese or not. I don't think it is. Mishawaka? It sounds like it could be. It may just be Native American. Anyway, the defense is a huge problem, and that's something that Mashburn is addressing this week with Spencer Bruce to go ahead and get these guys more disciplined and make better plays, and also to kind of change the secondary a little bit so that they can start making plays on the ball. That's been one of the issues. So they've been going a little bit more out from the 3-4 set that Mashburn wants to run, because a lot of teams are running 4-wide, 3-wide, 5-wide sets, and it's not advantageous for them to do that. They need more guys in the secondary, so they've been going to the 2-4 nickel in order to combat that. I think tackling is always going to be an issue with this team. For some reason, they cannot get their hands around a guy and just bring him down. I think that the whiffing is definitely a problem, and it's going to be a problem throughout the entire year. I don't know how you avoid doing that. But I think the concentration is a bit of an issue, but I think if they work a little bit more on the schemes and kind of addressing and getting the right matchups on defense to stop these spread offenses and these hurry-up offenses that they're going against, they can end up putting a stop to them. So we'll see if they do it this week against Troy. But yeah, I guess we'll see once the game actually goes down. All right, let's take one more question here. Looking around. All right, sure. Let's go with Derek Dynasty. Who do you think is the team's MVP as we approach the midpoint of the season? Run Wild. Yes, Run Wild, Derek. You know, strangely, I think you can say that Mashburn is the team's MVP. He's done some interesting things throughout the year. He led out his team into the end zone against USC and essentially had the whole team go celebrate after scoring a touchdown. And I think that psyched the team up. They've gotten a win this year on a 4-quarterback system that they ran against Georgia State. And you know, it almost at points hasn't mattered who they put at quarterback. He's found a way to make them somewhat effective when they're out there. And I know that's a weird one to kind of go to in terms of MVP. There's only really two other guys I can really think of, and it's Marcus Timberlake, who is currently the leader in rushing yards, rushes. I believe he's tied in rushing touchdowns. And he's also the leading receiver in terms of receptions on this team. He's essentially LaDainian Tomlinson on the Chargers. He's doing everything. And I think the offense has been heavily reliant on him, and I don't think they get as far without him there. The only other guy I can think of is Dante Devine, who had the game-sealing interception to win the game. He's had 3 interceptions this year. He's been the difference in that secondary, the guy who's actually been able to make plays and, help out the offense a little bit and get opposing offenses off the field. So I'd say between the two of them and Mashburn, maybe also Craig Kilgore. You know what do you guys think? Who Who thus far has impressed you the most, and who do you think is the MVP? You can go ahead and leave a comment about that. We're also going to be doing awards at the end of the year that you guys can vote on as well, so do keep an eye out for that when the season ends, and we'll be talking about, who's the offensive player of the year, who's the defensive player of the year, best freshman, all that good stuff. All right, we'll end the questions there. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about recruiting this week. Not a lot has changed. Still no recruits coming in, just more schedules of visits, but we do have some high school football action to go ahead and talk about. This is 99.7 KRED, Brandon Jackson. We're for Running Wild. We'll be right back. 99.7 KRED in Aurora. This is Brandon Jackson, Running Wild. Let's go ahead and jump into some high school football since there's still no news on recruits, and a recruit still has not signed quite yet with Aurora. First up, we're talking about Pueblo High and Paul Phillips. A good week for running backs here in Colorado as Paul Phillips had a big game going up against Denver. Pueblo looking for their first win of the year. Paul Phillips finished this game with 23 rushes, 229 yards on the ground, doing a great job using his speed to make guys miss, and 3 touchdowns as well. Added on 6 receptions for 48 yards. Really great game. If you're watching online here, you can see here getting to the outside, just bouncing off tackles, getting to the outside and getting out of bounds, really showing off the flashes of the speed. Look here as he gets around the corner, just gets caught there by the shoestring. But then here, a little screen pass, a little back step, and still look at that. The acceleration and the speed after he gets out of there makes it big gain out of what could have just been a simple little 10-yard gainer, and then gets into the touchdown here to help seal the game away. Then we move on to Moore High versus Boulder in Boulder, Colorado. And TJ Henderson and Dan Pierce certainly had a stranglehold in this game early on. They both worked together. They put together a really good performance in this one as TJ Henderson had 15 for 33 in the air, 220 yards, a touchdown. The only touchdown going to Dan Pierce there, who had 5 receptions, 99 yards, and a receiving touchdown himself. TJ Henderson would later on run one in for a touchdown. Right here on this play, a little play action as Robbie was there looking for Pierce and then ran it in himself as he dived into the end zone. They took an early 14-0 lead, but then that all changed with Karuga Koinange. Had a big game himself here through the air and also on the ground. Look there if you're following online. Nice little spin move, kind of reminds me a little bit of Marshall Faulk. Played a little bit like him here too, catching the ball out of the backfield and also running one in here in the Wildcat formation, getting off of a tackler and getting into the end zone. Then watch this play here as the guards go ahead and seal the play from the quick little cuts. We'll definitely watch that one back in a second as he scampered in for a huge 60-plus yard touchdown. Watch this here. So he gets his blocks there from another recruit here. The man in the white Under Armour there, Williams, the guard making the block. Then watch how he makes a small little cut here as he sees 3 defenders. Stops, quick little cut to the left. Watch it here. It's very subtle. And then the second that he sees his other 2 blockers, he begins to cut straight up and then cut straight right to make 2 defenders miss, then cuts back to the outside because he knows he's got 1 man to beat. He's going to make that safety go ahead and work for it. Goes all the way to the outside and then just pulls off. The acceleration on this kid is amazing. He's not exactly the fastest player, but it's how fast he gets in and out of those cuts and how he can make those small little cuts really matter. Same play there, kind of a quick little cut there to kind of get to the outside. And then here, it's all about the speed, following his blockers, making his blockers do what he needs. And then once he's in the open field, he is gone. Another touchdown there for Karuga. And then watch here on the screenplay. He sees his blockers, he knows he's got 2 defenders, follows them nicely, knows that Williams is going to give him that nice block there. And then he just forces the defenders to go to the outside with him, gets into the end zone, nice and easy. And watch this little misdirection here. It doesn't go for a touchdown, but watch the small cut there. Small cut there, and then another cut to the inside and completely dekes around the defensive tackle to make his way for a first down gain there. And then you watch him here as a selfless teammate. Not only is he receiving and running all over the place, he's also blocking for his quarterback, letting him get in. The quarterback obviously doesn't have the same ability that he does on the ground, but he makes sure that he gets in for the touchdown. And there it is. Boulder picks up their first win of the season, 35-21 over Moore. Karuga finished with 17 rushes, 250 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns. 8 receptions, 69 yards, and a touchdown through the air. St. Joe's played against Aspen. Aspen continues their undefeated streak this year in a 45-31 win. Jamarcus Johnston, the defensive tackle, 7 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks. Zion Meadows, the junior corner, 4 tackles, a sack, an interception, and that interception was returned for a touchdown. Ryland Kaiser really held quietly in that game. 1 reception, 34 yards. Colorado Springs going up against Aurora. Aurora, my Warriors, almost pulled this one out. It's a very tight game. Came down to Aurora needing one last score. Could not get it. 35-34. Colorado Springs, Bryson Hill, 13 for 24 through the air, 238 yards, 2 touchdowns, 16 rushes, 8 yards on the ground for a touchdown. Victor Yole had a big game too, 7 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, and 1.5 sacks. Like I said, big day for running backs in Colorado. Jules Chesnow, 27 rushes, 160 yards, and a touchdown. We also had Ivan McCleary, the fullback, 5 rushes, 38 yards, but he did have 5 receptions in the air, 86 yards, and a touchdown. Heading over to Durango, they suffered their first loss of the year going up against Greeley. Darian Bowles, huge game for him. Greeley really needed it to kind of stay in that hunt for the state championship, a 28-21 win. Darian Bowles, 12 receptions, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mike Hayes, not a great game from him. 12 for 26 through the air, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Really was hoping to see a lot from DJ Smith. Didn't get it. Only 4 receptions for 37 yards. Didn't see the big playmaking ability in this game against Greeley. Darian Bowles still proving why he is the best receiver, and it's a shame that he's slowly kind of creeping away from Aurora. So that's a battle that we will not win this year. Sunrise went up against Littleton. Littleton still continuing their hot streak with Johan Mondrasso, who had a big game, 29 for 40, 387 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns, 7 rushes for 18 yards. Chuck Afarije, 7 receptions, 101 yards, and a TD for the big tight end. And then Sunrise's Robert Watson had 19 rushes on the ground, 88 yards, and a touchdown. And the wide receiver, Kate Montgomery, who Aurora is also looking at, 6 receptions, 101 yards, and a touchdown. And then last but not least, the game with Pueblo. Didn't give the final score there, 28-14. So that'll do it this week for recruiting and high school football. Remember, if you want to have questions for next week, just leave them down in the comments below. And we will talk a little bit about our opponents, the Troy Trojans, as we look forward to playing them next week. 99.7 KRED